I drink alcohol to be productive, but instead it makes me want to rap and also tell stories. I just remembered I fought every single matriarch in my family, aside from the grandmother on my dad's side, but it's okay. We don't have to. That could have happened. It got very close, but anyway, I'll put it like this. My grandmother on my mom's side was this piece of shit. Let's call her Granny. She was such a terrible bitch. Even after she left, the resounding effects of her presence were just still lingering, like the chili beans stains and the Jolly Ranchers that were hardened and stuck onto the carpet that you couldn't remove even with the strongest rubbing alcohol. And the smell, like she, anywhere she touched turned to shit because she had this awful habit. People don't believe me when I say this, but even my own mother admitted it. My grandmother induced her own diarrhea so that then she could try to like do a life hack on her diabetes. Like, life hack, you won't die of diabetes when you eat like an entire bag of Reese's and an entire bags of Andy's chocolates if you just like eat all of your diarrhea pills in one single night. And then she would do dumb shit like she'd shit herself and then just like take one of my spare socks off the ground and wipe her leg with it and then throw it away. And then, like, I remember my mom tried to victim blame me. She was like, well, if you didn't have socks to pick up off the floor, she wouldn't have done that. Bitch, you should focus on the matter at hand. She's picking up articles of my clothing and wiping her ass and her shit with them. And anyway, and then we had shit stains on all the walls. I remember distinctively that my own mother, right before my sister's college graduation party, like she was like, "Hey Tamia, I'll give you some money if you like just take this rag and like wipe down all the walls of all of this nastiness," because it was like tons of brown and black streaks from where my grandmother constantly touched, and every door handle was sticky, and she even got shit on the seats. I had trained myself to either shit standing up, and if you're wondering how did you do that, it's a lot of math. You gotta like, don't worry. I had my legs separated and stuff. It was like I'd put one leg on the bathtub, another leg on the side counter, and just kind of levitate. Oh my god, it was weird. Or it's like I would do the little, I'd use toilet paper to like make a little fake ass doily, so I could kind of like, ugh, but even then I wouldn't feel comfortable fully sitting on it. Ugh. So it's like, yeah, you like sometimes you just gotta stand up and I don't need to tell you all of this. I'm sorry, I'm just drunk. But simply put, you gotta do some. Like the other, it's like sure you could just also wipe off her shit constantly, but I'll put it this way: I already have to deal with her shit like 24/7 and touch it, and like I know you'd be like, after living with her and it's on almost every fucking place you can imagine, wouldn't you just get used to it and just wipe the toilet seat yourself? No, I'm a germaphobe with contamination OCD. Simply put, living in that house was hell. It's like, oh my god, the worst day of my life was when my grandmother, her stupid ass, she went into the fridge and she saw that I had tuna salad in the back of the fridge. But I purposely put turmeric powder to make it look bright yellow so no one would know what the fuck it was, and no one would eat some shit that they didn't know what the fuck it was. And if it looked nasty and smelled like fish, no one would touch it. Aside from her nasty ass. She, with her nasty long yellow claws with gunk on the end, she has a bologna sandwich. Like, just like Kraft cheese, bologna, little bit of mayo. And she sees this Tupperware full of God knows what. She doesn't even know what it is. And she takes a piece of bread and her bare hand and she sticks it in this food that isn't hers, the tuna salad, and she scoops it out and splats it with her bare shitty cup. Oh, and that was my food for the week. It's like, bitch, you got all that food in the fridge to enjoy, every other bit of food in the fridge to enjoy. Why are you using your like you do? Oh, like, oh, you nasty. Oh, and living with her was shitty because we had to share a bedroom. And no wonder my grades sucked in high school and I couldn't go to college because, like, imagine every single night until 2 a.m. she's out here watching Two and a Half Men and you fall asleep to men, 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 ha. And then you wake up to the sounds at like 7 a.m. loud as fuck up to "Thank you for being a fan. Travel down the road and back." It's like fucking shit. I hated her. And then she was always farting, Bubble Guts McGee out here. Just like imagine the sound of like a kid blowing bubbles in chocolate milk, and just imagine that sound like fucking 48 times a day, because it's like your stupid ass grandmother is like chugging diarrheal pills so that the fucking microwaved McRibs and the deviled eggs and all the stupid old person food and the chicken nuggets and all the fucking chocolate that she's eating despite her being severely diabetic will leave through her system just as fast as it came. She was living in this disgusting hedonistic bliss. I hate people like this. My current housemates like this, and they're fucking disgusting. And I had to get on their ass too. I had to be like, hey, guess what? You can't complain about the house being dirty and sticky if you're the reason it's sticky. I live next to the bathroom, bitch. Wash your fucking hand after you take a shit and things wouldn't be sticky. You can't complain about like this pest problem or that like little rodent problem or this little bug problem when you're leaving half spilled ramens in the microwave for someone else to clean up. Like Jesus, I know you're like fucking like they like oh fuck them, but they got it together. But even then, they still it's like they're just fucking nasty, fucking disgusting, vile vermin. Anyway, let's get to the real juicy part of the story. So, eventually, at some, like I slept in the living room some nights or even just straight up stayed there as late as I could because it would help me avoid being in a place where the TV was blaring and she was just farting up a storm, making hella noise or doing dumb shit in there. And just, and she would yell at the TV sometimes. Just, you can imagine, I did not get a lot of rest. And even when I did wake up in that bedroom, my first thought was death. Like, I would have a single 2 seconds of joy and bliss before I would just hear the loudest and then fuck, and then her loudly shuffling, slamming open the door, shuffling on her way out, slamming the door closed as loud as possible. She would also swear at the top of her lungs. It didn't matter what hour it was, 3 p.m., 3 a.m. She was just like, bitch, why are you slamming every single door? Like, I hated her. I hated her so much. Like, for years, it took years for me to get a normal sleep schedule again, and even then I still struggle. But I remember at some point my mother, stupid bitch, she struggled. She eventually was like, she was getting over her trauma, sort of, but she still had it, like she was in that weird place where like she kind of like like with my grandmother living with us, my mom kind of felt like the same scared kid she was when she was living under her own mother and stuff. Like she felt like she needed to be overly obedient and walk on eggshells, and it's like, bitch, you're in your 30s or 40s, probably 40s. You don't need to be this way. Like to this 60 something hag who's just a total fucking cunt to you. Like, come on now. But my mom, she was like, one half of her was like, abused child syndrome. The other half of her was like, oh, but she's so old, I can't be mean to her. But really, she was just scared to start shit. As if, like, it's like, I get it though, because my grandmother did point a gun in my mother's face when she was a child. She pointed a gun at my 4-year-old mother's face. And she said, you ain't shit. And you ain't ever gonna be shit. Just like I ain't shit. And then she passed out from the drugs. And that stuck with my mom for the rest of her life. My mom will never take responsibility for any of the abusive shit she ever did after that, because she thinks as long as she's never done that, she can't be a bad parent. And that's exactly why that bitch is estranged. But I'll put it to you like this. At some point, my mom did try to, like, put her foot down, but ever so slightly. She was like, yeah, Granny needs to start, like, closing the bathroom door after she takes a shit because it floods into the rest of the house, which it does. Like, it's already bad enough that it floods into my bedroom, but then it's like, if I don't have an appetite, because it's like she takes the most steaming, nasty, shart shit ever with shit on the toilet seat after, no hand washing whatsoever, and then, like, the smell floods into the kitchen and floods into the living room because she doesn't close the door. My mom, like, vaguely mentioned it to her once, and I got into thought to myself, I'll enforce this because I know my mom's got my back, in this at least. And I remember it was this one specific time where I brought it up to my grandmother so gently, and she started immediately pitching a bitch and having an attitude. And then at some point, I was in the living room again. She left the bathroom, and then she was going to leave the door open. I said, are you going to close that door? She said, what? I said, are you going to close the door, like my mom said? And then she said something like, you don't tell me what. And she just got and she was like, bitch, get out of my face with that shit. And she got all up in my grill. And I was pissed and furious because, as you can imagine, living with that bitch for several years, you're of course going to lose your fucking shit every now and then. Let's just say she got in my space, and me, I'm not some punk ass bitch. So she was gonna. I kind of learned the lesson after some point of living in terror and like being bullied that you can't be the one who backs away. They're gonna know you're some bitch who can be pushed around. So I back into her. So imagine like you try to do this to me, and instead of me going like this, I'm like, oh, okay, what's up with it then? Are you gonna close the door? It's a simple thing. All you gotta do is close it. She grabs me by my fucking jacket, hella hard, like she's trying to shake me and shit. I'm like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? I grab hers back. This bitch tries to swing me into the wall. She succeeds, but me, I'm a smart person. I grab her shit. I use the same velocity to swing her into the opposite wall. My younger brother, who sadly was right next to the bathroom, and it was like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. at this point, he wakes up and just hears the sounds of me like screaming and trying to shove her off and be like, get the fuck off of me! Don't put your fucking hands on me! And he starts crying and screaming, and it's so sad. I feel so bad for Buddy. But then guess what? Like, simply put, it's an old ass lady. She's a big bitch, mind you. Like, mind you, she's probably weighs like 3 times as much as me. But she's still old as fuck with weak ass knees. So, swing into this wall, swing into that wall, and eventually I just kind of just like, and I push her ass back, and she falls back on the ground. And I speed my ass, kick open my mom's door, and I'm like, Granny just tried to put her fucking hands on me. And you can hear my voice shaking because I was about to cry because I was like, what the fuck? And then my mom wakes up like, what? And I said, Granny, put her hands on me. And the next thing you know, to sum it up, let's just say shit got weird fast. Like, my younger brother was crying and he needed to be comforted, but no one was really trying to comfort him, sadly, which I feel really bad about. That probably gave him a lot of anxiety. He already does have anxiety. My mom started seeing red, and her, like, she's already a yellow bitch, so, and not Asian, she's light skinned black person. I don't know. I have suspicions my grandmother cheated, but I don't know. My mom says that her dad is her dad, so maybe it's just genetics that she came out hella. It's like, I don't know. Like, two brown-eyed people who are dark skinned having a light skinned green-eyed baby. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I got to do some Punnett squares. What can I say? But whatever. But either way, you could see my mom physically burning up like bright pink, like brink pink, like insane asylum pinkish red. It was like terrifying. And it was so weird because my stepdad, he knows how my mom's anger issues work. So he just was like, all right. And he just kind of started awkwardly stripping her clothes off. So there I was in the darkened hallway. My grandmother's just like slowly shumbling her ass off the floor and stumbling back to the bedroom. I'm sitting there like tears welling up in my eyes, trying so hard to keep it together, shaking with rage and upset. My mother's on the floor. She's damn near convulsing with how much rage she feels. She's turning bright red like a fucking reindeer's nose. My stepdad's stripping her on the floor, so now she's got her titties out and she's like literally like convulsing on the floor, trying to like keep herself together. And it's a weird scene. Let's just say I told the honest truth. My grandmother tried to tell a fucking lie. My mother knew who to believe, thank fucking God. But either way, this is what happened. My mother said my grandmother couldn't live there anymore. And that she gonna figure out another living situation because you can't just put your hands on my fucking daughter, and that's where she draws the line. My grandmother was allowed to sleep in my bedroom peacefully. My younger brother slept with the parents because he needed to calm down because he was young. And then I got to sleep in my younger brother's room. And I couldn't sleep because it's like I'm wearing clothes that reek of shit from her shit stained hands, and now they've stained to me. And I feel traumatized and fucked up and shaken up and hurt in my own home. And I just kind of knew, like, I looked at my little brother's like Buzz Lightyear clock, and I just knew nothing's going to change. And it's gonna get worse as long as she's here. I will probably leave before she does. Anyway, and as you can expect, the next day or so, my mother was like, oh, Granny hasn't gotten out of bed all day. All day she hasn't gotten out of bed. She's like a child. She's just in there sulking quietly like a kid on punishment. It's so sad. She hasn't even got up for water. And then she started getting up to fill her mother's water and doing this and doing that. And I could tell what was about to happen because eventually at some point my mother was like, here, you had a rough time the other night. Like, here's some money. I don't remember how much it was. I think it was like 30, maybe $50. And she's like, go out and get yourself something nice. Maybe go to Michael's. I know you like that. Get yourself some sketchbooks or something. And mind you, my mother hated clutter and she hated me getting items and stuff. But she just was like, she was trying to buy my silence. And as I went down those fucking brick steps and looked back at the metal door, I knew what was gonna come next. She was gonna take the side of the woman who hurt me, the child she allegedly loved. And you can imagine the bitch stayed there for about another 2 years or so before the pandemic happened. I hate that. I would have respected my mother in so many ways had she kicked her out. I would have gotten a nice job and worked full time and done this and done that and just. No. She sealed her fate. And then, even then, when my grandmother did eventually move out, because thankfully the pandemic meant my mother was looking for a chance to kick her out. Because she couldn't be stuck in the house 24/7 with that bitch. She would lose her mind. Even though technically she already was, but if you think about it, it's like she already worked. I don't know. She could have done this way, way sooner. But either way, my grandmother got like some sort of SRO housing somewhere else. I got my own bedroom, and the peace did not last very long. My mother hoped that I would just go back to being some amazingly flourishing, mentally stable kid, and it's like, no. From the ages of like, let's see, 15, 16 or so, all the way to like me being like 20, like roughly 20 or so, you had me live with that bitch. And it psychologically changed me forever. I remember one of the first nights alone, I just thought to myself, this feels strange. The room is empty and peaceful, but I know that it should have been years before. She could have stopped me from having an additional several years of pain at the hands of my grandmother. I would have not had my eating disorder worsen because I didn't even want to touch the fucking fridge or eat my own fucking food because I wouldn't be sure if it would even be safe or hygienic to do so. I stopped using the bathroom like a normal person. I stopped doing a lot of things like a normal person. I started seeing the wrong people because I just wanted to be at the fucking house. God. She fucked me up and I hated it so bad. I remember the day my mother said that I was going to be forced to live with share a room with my grandmother. And it's so funny because I remember it was the same day I broke up with this really bad guy, and I was like, I'm just going to focus on my schooling and my social life and try my best to be happy so I can go to a good school and do this and do that and focus on my goals. And then that bitch moved in, and my mom got worse, and everyone got worse, and everything got worse. And I hated it. It's like, oh, suddenly I don't, and then it all got so bad. I don't want to relive every single trauma. Let's just say, imagine like your life goes from totally normal to like you're living with this old nasty bitch who can't let you sleep or wake up normally, and suddenly you're getting harassed at school again in terrible, terrible fucking ways. And no, I can't relive that trauma because when I talk about certain experiences, I relive the trauma. I can't do that to myself today. I don't feel like it. So let's get to the good part. So when I was 20, and this was in like, let's say March 2021. I won't say the whole story because the whole story will make me want to shoot myself, and I'm already feeling drunk and a headache, so let's not go there. I'll put it to you like this. My mother entered my bedroom. She already got done screaming at the top of my lungs at my younger brother, and you could hear every single detail of what she was saying, and it hurt your ears even though you were 3 fucking rooms away. So imagine how distressing that would be to my younger brother, the one who was being yelled at for not taking care of the litter box properly. All because my mom wanted to be a bitch that day. Like if a woman's voice is so loud you can hear it perfectly and it sounds like you're being yelled at and it's hurting your ears from 3 rooms away, imagine how it would be to be the kid in the room with her. And then she got mad that my younger brother started tearing up because she's not fucking communicating like an adult. She's reacting like a fucking child because she's a cunt. And then she started making threats towards him. And you know what she does when she's angry? She starts taking out her anger on everybody. She's like, let me utilize this blow up to just punish everyone in the house. And even smaller things I did that day that I knew would make my life better, she shit on. Like me simply going, oh, you know what? Let me move my box full of skincare and makeup from the top of the counter in my own bathroom that I share with my little brother that she has no access to and no reason to ever be in. No, you put this on the top of my side of the counter so that then when I get depressed or whatever, I can just easily wake up, open it up, do my body routine, and have less days of like just letting myself rot. But she stormed into my room at some point and she was like, to me, you need to put that back under the counter. I don't see why it's there, and just started swearing, and let's just say I removed it entirely and put it back into my bedroom quietly. She is a weird woman. She doesn't like when you're quiet, when she reacts to you terribly, but she doesn't like when you cry or whatever, but she doesn't like when you respond. But she just hates when you're more emotionally stable than she is. She'll take it as sass no matter what because she is someone who sees the bad in everything and just wants to cause bad. Not my fucking issue. Let's just say eventually I was in my room just kind of. I had felt for weeks that something really, 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 really bad and mandatory was coming, so I didn't spend a single bit of money. I saved as much as I could. I had a feeling something bad would happen because I know it does with her. And that's why we never could heal our relationship, even during the pandemic, even after my granny left, even after everything. Why? Because she was not. How do I put this? It's like, cool, we got rid of the big boss battle, but there's still the enemy that we still need to defeat at this end of the game. So what can I say? I'll sum it up like this. This bitch gonna get mad at me for an unvacuumed corner. She knocks on my door, looks at me like she wants to fucking murder me with these bloodshot red eyes and this tight-lipped little look she gives. And she's like, why the fuck is that corner not? Didn't I tell you to take care of that corner? And she gestures to this small sliver of space directly next to my bedroom door. And it's like it has a few like it's like okay, it has like a few like random beads in it from like my jewelry making, or it has like a little bit of I don't know, small bits of hair because I don't know, bitches do their hair sometimes. Or just simply put, it has like what like just a simple corner. Imagine a corner. Sometimes you find a corner and it's like, oh yeah, that's just some stuff that's in it, like little like a paper clip, or like a few stray beads, or like a penny, or like it's not that big a deal. But she was acting like it was the new 9/11 and that I was the worst person in the world. And I kept trying to communicate with her like I can get to that right now, but no, she's not someone who works on logic. She works on emotion, no matter how brutal. And so then she just was like, she would rather stand there for like 8 minutes and just needlessly insult and degrade me as much as possible for not cleaning that corner and saying I was disrespectful, ungrateful, stupid, idiotic, and a bitch and all this shit. Just because I didn't want, just because it's like, I'm sorry that in the grand scheme of things, I didn't get to one single corner. And if you're like, hey, Tamia, why didn't you get to that single corner when she asked you like once or twice before? Oh, the answer is I got so done cleaning my room over the pandemic. It looked like a masterpiece. Then they had to do construction on my bedroom, and then toxic fucking dust got everywhere. I had to wash tons of bags of clothing, and mind you, bags of clothing that could be like fucking 50 pounds. I mean, $50 per bag of 25 pounds. So it was a lot of money to be using. And then on top of that, I had to wipe every single crevice of anything ever. Like I'm talking about cleaning the pages of books, cleaning every single individual piece of makeup, cleaning every like any. Imagine your whole room got covered with dust right now, and you had to wipe down every fucking thing, no matter how big or small. You're gonna forget about a corner. And then the second time construction stopped by, and my mom was nice enough to offer a tarp. She was dumb enough where, like, she comes home one night. She's like, "Hey, Tamia, did you take the tarp down yet?" I said, "Oh, yeah, they wrapped up a bit ago, but I'll do it in a second. Don't worry, I got it by myself. I'm just taking my time with it because I'm not in a rush." She was like, "Oh, okay." She comes into my room, does not turn on the light, and takes down the tarp like as if she was folding up a blanket and tosses it on my floor, and then says, "There we go, I did it," and walks to her room all proud. I come back and then it's like, oh, look, you flew toxic dust all over my room. Because it's like she could have just very gently, if she wanted to be good, she could have very gently unpinned it from the walls. And it's like, no, dust is like glitter. Imagine someone's like, hi, I just got done doing this huge glitter project and I put a perfect tarp around so it should not be on any of your stuff. and then someone goes cool and they grab the tarp and they just fling it around as they're folding it, and then you come into your room and there's glitter anywhere and the person has, and then I had to re-clean all of that shit, get even more laundry done. Oh, it's like, yeah, bitch, I'm gonna forget about a fucking corner because I'm too busy fixing the mistake and mess you made. And just mm. I also got into a depression and started drinking and stuff around that time, and just anyway, let's just say I was cleaning up a lot of stuff. I was getting rid of the alcohol bottles under my bed. I was taking out garbage. I was cleaning, I was like making sure I scheduled all the laundry pickups and all that. I was grinding super hard with my music playing, and everything was going according to plan until she interrupted me. And she interrupted me not even to just be like, hey, clean up that corner now, which she didn't even need to bring up, because it's like, why the fuck did she feel the need to bring that up at all? At all. And then just for her to not even want me to clean the corner, because several times I say, I can get the vacuum right now and clean it. It's no worries. I can do it right now. Instead, she would literally want to stand there just for the sake of her ego and wanting to feel like head bitch of the household. She wanted to stand there and fucking degrade me. For like knowing her, she probably would want to stand there for like 20 fucking minutes just endlessly insulting me and screaming at me next. And I remember just staring at my like spacing out, seeing myself in like third eye, like eagle's view, just fucking third person view, just being like, do I want this for the rest of my life? Do I want any more of this? Do I just want to keep dealing with a person who's like this? I want to be happy. This is not making me happy. Why am I dealing with this? And I just thought to myself, I don't want to deal with this bitch. This makes me severely unhappy, and I don't want to deal with her. I don't remember what I said right now, but I'm sure I wrote it down somewhere or vocalized it somewhere. I'll just say I stood up to her. I was like, I can't even remember because I'm drunk, really. Let's just say she threw a backpack full of heavy textbooks at me, and when I backed away, I said, whoa, what the fuck? And she hated that. But she also hated that she, like, at some point, like, yeah, she just hated it. And the next thing you know, your mother's like trying to scratch at your face and scratch your eyes out of your face, and is getting mad that you're successfully rebuffing her because despite her weighing like maybe 2 or 3 pounds, I mean 2 or 3 times more than you, you're dodging her advances pretty well. Next thing, do you know how it feels to have your mother sitting on your face with no panties on under her leggings, just full on pussy on your like fucking mouth and face as she's trying to claw your fucking eyes out? It's not a great feeling. It's not very fun. Do you know how it feels to kick your mom in the back of the head multiple times and use your toes to pull at her braids? Feels a little silly. It's very fucking ridiculous how that all went down. But let's just say, just like with my grandmother, I came out mostly the victor. Like, just because, oh, this is so sad. My younger brother, I remember at some point, my mother yelled, Eric, Eric, come in and grab your sister. Come grab her legs for me. And there was no, and like he came in, he was like, what, 12 at this time? He rushes in. And then, he thinks, I should grab her legs because my abusive mom will probably hurt me otherwise if I don't. I say, no, Eric, don't do it, don't do it. No, buddy, you don't have to. It's okay. Hey, look at me. You're okay. You don't have to get involved. It's okay, sweetie. And then he started panicking because on one hand, it's like his mother, the one who could hurt him. On the other hand, it's like the girl who like made him dinner sometimes and cooked for him and baked for him and who loves him and has been there for him even when his own mother was a fucking abusive cunt and he had no one else to turn to. And then he just started crying, and it broke my heart. But he cried, and then he left the room. And it still breaks my heart to this day that he had to see that. He shouldn't have to see shit like that. But if the matriarchs in the family want to keep being bitches, I guess that's just what has to happen. I hope he's okay. I don't know. Knowing my family, I doubt he is. And I feel bad that I wasn't there for him more over the past few years. I don't know. There's a lot of reasons. I didn't stay too much in touch, and I feel so bad about it, but it's okay. He seems to be growing up into a happy and healthy young man regardless, so. Fuck. Oh. And if you're wondering, let's just say eventually my mom got off of me. And I got, let's see. I got a light scar that you can see up here, and another scar. I forget if it's this one or this one, but I got some bloody scratches and scars on my face from her trying to claw my eyes out and hit me and attack me. But let's just say I left a lot more on her because I'm a fucking scrapper. That's what we do. Beat the fuck. Yeah. And my family tries to get mad at me, but it's like it's self-defense. She attacked me first. She was the one who pinned me down. Do you really think my little anorexic ass, I had anxiety, bitch. I didn't even raise my voice at all around her. Like, I kept most of my life a secret from her because I did not want her to cause any harm in any single way, shape, or form. I was the least confrontational member of the family. If you want to sit there and be like, oh yeah, she's the one who just went off the rails and attacked poor that lady, it's like, no. Like, it's like, think about it. The alcoholic rageaholic with fucking mommy issues who weighs 3 times more and is known to have a temperament and all her kids are scared of her, even in adulthood. That's the bitch who would obviously, like, and then I'm the autistic anorexic kid who's like living, like, who's literally under her care because, like, Jesus. But some people like to believe what they'll believe, and that's okay because those people don't affect me anymore and they're fucking idiots anyway. But yeah, you should have seen it. My mom's bright green eyes, like the red bloodshot look of her eyes making the green pop out even more. And then her, like, the bloody scratches all over her face. She looked like she got mauled by a fucking, like a group of wild feral cats. Huh. I gotta admit, I felt like MVP after that. And I don't regret estranging them. But yeah. So yeah, I beat my mom's ass. Well, and I say that to exaggerate, obviously. And same for my grandmother, which is also an exaggeration. But yeah, I've had to fight almost every matriarch in my household. And honestly, when I lived with my grandmother on my dad's side, the way she was acting, let's just say she was acting like a little bit of my mother and also a little bit of my granny. And so I was like, let's just say she got close. I remember she was trying to kick me out of her house because I went back to get some shit from my mom's place that is legally mine and I was legally on the rental agreement and everything like that. Oh, she, but oh, she was mad. Like, she tried to be like, you can't live here no more if you gonna do some shit like that. No. And then I just calmly started packing up. And then my grandmother got pissed. She was like, wait, why is she about to seriously leave without any, like, sort of, like, further fight or apology or whatever. And then I guess my grandmother started realizing, shit, Tamia is the type that will just fucking, if I try to kick her out, she will just leave quietly. I remember being in her shitty ass little apartment, which I already was tired of at that point, and I was just like, okay, I'll roll up my stuff. And like, if I can't change what's happened, then I'll be okay. I could find a hotel or motel. I could find a phone. I could even just hitchhike. The world's my oyster now, and I could spend extra time having energy stressed on like, where am I gonna live now that I'm cut off on both sides of my family, or I could just focus my energy on just like, yeah, let's just quietly gather my stuff, and then I can stress out later when it's actually the planning stage of what I'll do next, you know. And then my grandmother got really, really upset and pissed and distressed. And then she went from, you don't have to leave just because I say you have to leave, to Mia. You don't have to. I am your family. And I said, no, it's okay. I want to. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah, it's okay. I could do it. Like, you know, I've already been a burden to you. And I don't want to stay here any longer. It's okay. It's for the best. And no one in my family has good communication skills or emotional regulation skills. No offense. It's just a whole bunch of narcissistic ass, stupid people with egos. And let's just say she started pitching a bitch, and then eventually she started to panic because, like, you know, her little scare tactic of, I'm gonna kick you out, or her, maybe she did seriously meant it, but then once it's like, shit, she's actually just gonna fucking leave quietly, she started freaking out, and I tried to leave, and then she was like, no, you aren't leaving, and I said, yes, I am, I'm a legal adult, I can go. And she was like, where would you go if not here? And I said, I don't know, anything but here is better. And then she hated me saying that. She was like, you said the same thing about your mother's place. And I said, yes, and I mean it about here too, because I hated it. She wasn't actually all that different from my granny. She just had the uppity attitude and arrogance of my mother, but she also had the disgusting behaviors of my granny. So simply put, my grandmother, I wasn't the biggest fan of her. Why would I be? And my fucking, ooh, she was so mad. And it's like, that is not my issue, baby doll. That is not my issue. And I just was like, listen, you're cool and all, but I can't do this anymore. And I just was quietly packing up, and she was yelling. I was quietly packing up. She was yelling. You know, it's so funny how both my mom and my grandmother had that in common. But simply put, yeah. And then I remember distinctly trying to like drag my stuff out of my grandmother's apartment that she shared with my dad. And like next thing you know, like my grandmother kept trying to scream and be like, "Where would you go if not here? Where would you go if not here? You don't care about no one but yourself. You are the mess. You are a devil." And I started screaming back too. I don't remember what I was. Oh, I remember I was like, "You don't want me to say it because you don't." And she was like, "I want you to say it." I said, "You don't want. I'm not gonna fucking say it. I was gonna." And she was like, "Now you're swearing at me." And I don't remember what I was gonna say, but I was gonna say something along the lines. Knowing me, what would some shit I was gonna say back then? I was either gonna say you're just like my fucking mother, if not worse. You're just as funky, if not as disgusting as my granny. And then on top of that, like, and I probably would have said a bunch of mean shit. Knowing me, it's like I would have brought up tons of shit because there's tons of shit to work with. It's like, think about it. There's my motherfucking like I could be like, you like made excuses for your son all his fucking life, and that's why I got stuck with those crazy bitches, and that's why I am the way I am. I could have said some shit about like, hey, you have a daughter who's allegedly an escort, and like you claim to be so Muslim this, Muslim that, and you're trying to pretend I'm gonna go to hell if I don't forgive my mother and go back to live with her, but really you just don't want me here. The whole time your son had a kid out of wedlock and is motherfucking whoring himself around. And your other daughter, she's an escort, and she like, how do you think she has that BBL and all the Birkin bags and shit? You think she's got that just from a cosmetology license? I don't think so, because my mom found her on Craigslist. But then again, that's just speculation. And shout out to that woman. Shout out to that specific aunt. You know, I ain't got no issue with her, and it is just speculation. I have no issue with that aunt, but I also haven't heard from that aunt in years, and I don't really give a fuck. And I could have said a lot. Like I just knowing me, I would have said some really mean shit. But either way, yeah. Let's just say it was very funny to know that within like the span of like a single day, I was entertainment for like two different neighborhoods because they got to see like several different screaming matches. Like my mom even messaged my dad. She was like, you gotta check her because I had to call the cops when she tried to get her stuff, and now all the neighbors are staring at me crazy as shit." I don't give a fuck about the neighbors, bitch. Focus on your, like, I don't give a fuck. Fuck her. And yeah, and oh my god, like the way that my grandmother was talking, let's just say she could have had hands if she really wanted hands thrown. She was just very lucky my dad was there, and very lucky that unlike my grandmother, it's like she seemed a little too weak. Like a fight with her would have been too easy, you know, her little stupid ass. Sorry, I don't like her. Like, how do I put this? Like my grandmother, I mean my granny, the big one, the one on my mom's side, that bitch was a tank. Like that's a Dark Souls boss, if anything. Like that's some sort of Elden Ring built bitch. Like, you know, you're gonna be scared to fight her. But as for like my dad's mom, like my grandmother, it's like it's like, yeah, it wouldn't take much to like get her on the floor, like at all. Like, yeah, I would just feel bad. So it's like I'm not gonna fight her, but I could have. But I didn't. Plus, I just thought to myself, leaving her life is gonna hurt her enough, and it sure is. To the best of my knowledge, it probably did. And so far, just leaving her alone and not contacting her works pretty well. Mm-mm-mm. But as of now, yeah. So that's the story of how I fought almost every matriarch in my family. If you're still strapped in after 40 minutes, shout out to you for staying along for this very long ride. Oh, but that was wild. It's good to know that I've been estranged for about 3 years, almost four if you give it a few months, and that's a blessing. I'm very happy. I forget that I even have like family because I don't think about them, and that's a blessing because I used to think about this all the time. It used to be like totally paralyzing for me. But then now that enough years has passed and people have moved on, people live their lives and do their stuff, things have gotten easier. You know, I remember I actually did run into my one of my aunts on my dad's side semi recently, like a few months ago, and she told me, she was like, "Oh yeah, things are going okay," and she talked about this, that, and the other, and she was like, "We'd love to hear from you sometime, but eh." Simply put, if that was true, I think I would have been contacted more. Like, I don't know. Either way, yeah, I don't think my grandmother would like to hear with her weak heart that it's like, hey, you know all that transphobic, fucked up shit you said under the guise of being godly? Well, guess what? I'm trans. I'm non binary or gender fluid, whichever way you put it. I'll probably transition one day. And then on top of that, I'm gay. And then on top of that, I've also done like sex work. And on top of that, I also like to fuck just because I like to fuck. And I have like multiple dating options that I see every now and then. And I'm clinically insane at times. And like, yeah. And I get to live my life freely without worrying about like who thinks what about me. Because I don't like, I used to worry before about every little thing in my life, constantly being suffocated. And now that I'm free, I refuse to get back into that. I spent like fucking 20 years, if not 21 years, being secretive and suffering because of it and suffocating. I don't like that. I like to be as blunt and honest as possible to make me a magnet to those who could truly love me in the way that these people didn't, and would not put me in the same positions of harm as these people did. Like, I used to worry about a fucking unvacuumed corner before, and like how if one single thing was out of place, it would get the whole house like loud and abusive, and belts would come out and screams would come out, and fuck that shit, not my issue. And now I get to focus on better things, like, hey, is that one guy you had a crush on out of all those other guys gonna text you back? Or like, hey, what body wash do I want to use in the shower? And I get to have a nice peaceful environment that I get to fill with my own noise, and it is a happy, joyous noise. Blissful peace. Amen.